Michael McFaul, now former U.S. ambassador to Russia, he met and negotiated face-to-face with Vladimir Putin, and I want to talk sanctions with you if we could. Last week, Jen Psaki said sanctions are meant to be a deterrent. Over the weekend, Secretary Blinken said sanctions are meant to be a deterrent. Today, the president said nobody expected the sanctions to prevent anything from happening. It's semantics, but they said sanctions are a deterrent. They clearly didn't work, and they didn't even use all of them.
Well, it's a different phase now, right? So let's talk about what the other ones they might use. But you wanted to use sanctions as a deterrent before war, and that didn't work. It obviously didn't work. So now you're using sanctions as punishment. And let's just be clear before we get into a discussion, will they be effective or not? When there's bad things that happen in the world, you have to have a response. There has to be a punishment. Even if you don't know if it's going to change Putin's calculus. So I think the package today was the right response. I would have liked to see more, and maybe more is coming once we get our European allies on board with a couple of other pieces. But the other thing I think we need to be crystal clear about, these sanctions are not going to change Putin's thinking during the course of this war. We should just have no illusions about that. We're not going to count and measure the effect of sanctions in weeks. It's going to be months, and I actually think years, for a couple of reasons, Shep. One, it's a dictatorship. So the people getting sanctioned can't go to the parliament and say, my political party says, Mr. Putin, that you need to lift the sanctions. It's a dictatorship. That kind of pressure doesn't work that way. But even more importantly, I think this is something fundamental that people are not understanding about the Russian economy. The two big banks that were sanctioned today, Sberbank and VTB, I know them both well. I actually know both of the CEOs of those companies. I used to work with them when I was the ambassador. They are not independent capitalists. They are appointed by Putin. So they can't go to Putin and say, hey, Mr. Putin, the job you gave me and you're enriching me. Now I want you to lift, get out of the war so you can lift the sanctions. The balance of power between them is exactly the opposite.
They did not target Vladimir Putin directly, though I suppose that's still on the table. They did not target some oligarchs directly. They did not target part of the SWIFT system. What do you wait until Putin says, the Pentagon says they want to decapitate the government and put their own in? Do you have to save some punishments until that? I mean, at some point you run out of punishments, so you divvy them out like dog treats?
I think that's their strategy. And let's just talk about sanctioning Putin or not. That's more symbolic than anything else. I think there's way too much focus on whether that would be something that would change his calculus.
Well, if you could stop an oligarch from buying up property in Southern California, or you could stop them from traveling to different parts of the world and cut off all their finances, doesn't sound like a thing that would hurt at all.
Absolutely. I agree with you. Those are things that should happen. I expect they will happen. But they're also not going to change Putin's calculus. I just think it's really imperative that people understand that. Those people that have those things are the least influential people in Vladimir Putin's entourage. Meanwhile, the people that are most powerful are the ones that will not suffer, because Russia has something that a lot of other countries where sanctions have been effective do not have. They have oil and gas, and we're not going to sanction that. Do you know that we actually import more oil from Russia than Saudi Arabia today? And oil is a global market, right? So, if we cut that off, the oil just goes into a bigger pot and the price goes up. Those are the people that are closest to Putin, and we don't have economic tools, at least, well, let me be clear. We have not yet talked about using economic tools to try to effectively shut them down.
Ambassador Michael McFaul, thanks very much.